Last week, my 10-year-old son B got sick one night. He had vomiting, fever, etc. So the next morning, I kept him home from school. I accidentally forgot to call the attendance line and report him absent. About half an hour after school started that morning, my fiance called me from work, freaking out, asking where B was. I informed him that he was homesick, which my fiance didn't know because he had left super early that morning for work. Apparently, the school had been frantically calling me. My phone never rang and I had no missed calls. And then called my fiance because numerous students and teachers had seen B at breakfast. It's served before school starts. B is always there early for breakfast. But he was absent from class when school began. Many students swore that they'd seen B at breakfast, but B was acting weird and didn't respond to them. Very odd because B is usually very outgoing and social. It even escalated that some students had seen B running onto the stage in the auditorium and hiding. Teachers were literally using flashlights to search even up in the stage rafters for him because he had supposedly even been spotted up there. One of his best friends even called B from school that morning because she was worried and B's phone never rang. She even texted him. Also, when you guessed it, no text was received. The police had even been notified and were en route to the school until my fiance called me, and I called the school immediately to let them know that B was home and sick. I've tried to obtain more details about all this, but even the school secretary seemed weirded out about it and was just like, okay, well, I'm glad he's okay. Must have been another student that looks like him, I guess. From the info that I have gathered, nobody actually spoke to B that morning because he ignored everyone and just stared down at his food tray. When asked about what he was wearing, all I got was a hoodie and sweatpants, which is his usual everyday attire. Bottom line, this whole thing really freaked me out. His friends, and even his teachers. For as long as I could remember, I had the same nightmare as a child, where I would see this man who would be following me around in my dreams. I never saw his face, since he was like one of those shadow people, or of a walking silhouette where his body was completely pitch black. The man was about 6 foot tall. There would be times where he would be with or without a fedora hat, but he would always be wearing a long trench coat. Before he would appear in my dreams, all would be going normal as dreams go. For example, I dreamt that I was in a park, playing with others on a bright summer day. All of a sudden, there would be just something that would snap and everyone around me would suddenly shift their moods from happy to fearful. Whispers would be heard saying, "The man is near," and "It's best if you leave before he gets closer." The sun would disappear and it would be that time of day where it would be twilight. I would make my way to get home before the man could find me. I would always be alone during this time, but the whispers would be getting louder and louder. Right before I could make it to safety, there in the corner of my eye, I would see the man standing right at the corner of the wall. He wouldn't move or talk, he just stood there so still. I'd be paralyzed in fear and I couldn't find the energy to escape inside my house. Once the man saw that I was trapped, that's when he would charge at me with his arms reaching for me. This is when I'd wake up, shaking in my bed, holding my own heart, feeling it beating out of my chest. Furthermore, there were times where I would have sleep paralysis, where my room would be darker as usual. I'd be stuck facing up, with only being able to move my head slightly from left to right. As I looked to my left, that's where I saw the man standing in the corner of my room, watching me sleep. I tried many times to cry out to call my parents, but my voice just couldn't escape my mouth. Slowly, the man would be moving towards me, where his eyes would be locked on me the entire time. I had these dreams and these sleep paralysis moments from my earliest memories, all the way to 5th grade. Fast forward to about 13 years later, where my little sister is telling me about a dream that she's been having. She describes how her dreams are. They nearly matched the experiences that I had down to the man that I had encountered in my own dreams. She's in 5th grade, the same grade where I stopped having the dreams. I don't want to bring up these dreams to her, since I'd rather have forgotten about these dreams. My questions are that, is this just a coincidence of who she is describing? Or is this the same man that haunted me in my dreams? Is there a family curse or haunt that has never been brought up? Hi, my name is Ari. Ever since I was younger, I've been seeing things I can't even explain. I was 4 years old when I saw what I thought was my friend from school outside my house, near my favourite tree. I walked out and I was standing there trying to get her attention to see why she was here, but I couldn't get anything from her. But the crazy thing is, at that time I was living in a completely different house and didn't move into the house I saw her at till a year later. When we moved into that house, I was always looking at that tree. I was so confused at how I thought I was already in that house when I didn't even know that that house existed at the time. When I started at school, I met this girl. She became my best friend. We were playing in the backyard and she went near that tree and I saw it was her in the, I guess you would call it, vision. I didn't tell anyone about it and I still haven't get too scared to talk about it. Now I'm 20. That story was based around early 2004 to mid 2006. I now live in a different house. I only found out I was a medium about 2 weeks ago now. My sister is a green witch. We didn't know if I was a witch or a medium, but she asked her crystal and it said yes. And I have a best friend that is an angel, and the spirits talk to her about me all the time. Also, a big thing for all the new mediums out there. I know you want to research about it, trust me, so do I. But you can't. You need to learn and teach yourself. Let the spirits help you. They will trust you more and you will get better at it if you research about it. They will shut you out and not trust you because you are learning too fast and getting things in your head that aren't right. They wouldn't let you see them anymore or help them. You need to do things on your own. 10th of the 9th, 2020. My friends and I were in Goulburn. Now we are from Act, which is about an hour's drive from Goulburn. We saw this battered up place and thought we would go have a look at it. Let's call my friends Emma and Katie, we drove past it a few times just to see if it looked safe. We stopped the car and started walking up to it. As we kept on walking, I felt this odd feeling that something bad was going to happen. And I was right. But did I listen to that bad feeling? No, I didn't. Well done, Ari. We walked through the gates and had to climb over a bathtub that looked like it had been thrown out from the side of the second floor. We were walking down a ruined hallway and we tried our best to be quiet because I wasn't sure if we were allowed to be in there. Turns out we weren't, but oh well. As we were walking, I heard a little girl laugh in the dissected eye stop in the tracks, and the girls turned to look at me. "What's wrong, Harry?" Emma said to me, looking confused and worried. I brushed it off, thinking it was nothing, and then after that, we kept walking around. We checked out the place and had a look at all the rooms on the first and second floor, and the place was nice, but it was very run down and had lots of water damage. As I was walking around, there was a little girl following me because she thought I was her mother. Then she realised I wasn't, and kept following me anyways because she felt safe and happy that I was there. After we were looking around the first floor, and there was something that didn't like us being, something that was very unholy, and was not part of the orphanage, so we decided to leave and come back at night, when they were more active, so I could find out what this thing was or is, and what its reason for being there was, because it was scaring the other spirits that were or are there, and I wasn't going to leave then with something that was making their afterlife terrible. I went back that night with a few different people, and one of them brought a Ouija board with them. There was a time when I was 10. I walked up to my mother and told her that I feel more connected to Satan than I do God. Now, I don't remember saying this at all because even at 10, I knew what Satan is and that he was a bad guy. I knew not to mess with them. At the time, my mother thought it was because of the paranormal movies I had been watching and had got it from them. She told me I wasn't allowed to watch these kind of movies anymore, and I got visibly upset. When I turned 14, I went to my mate's house. She wanted to watch a paranormal movie that had finally come out on DVD. When she put it on, I didn't look at the case before she played it. The movie was The Conjuring. I had heard lots of stuff about it, and it was the most scariest movie out there at the time, so I was a bit scared to watch it. As the movie was playing, we stopped it because I 100% thought I heard something upstairs. I thought it was just her brother, so I brushed it off. Halfway through the movie, I looked at her. "Your brother is very noisy." She looked at me with a scared look. She told me that we were the only ones home. We paused the movie and thought we should investigate. Yes, I know. That's how people get killed in movies. But I was 14, so shh. We started walking up the stairs, and it sounded like there was someone running in her dad's study room. She was too scared to open it, so I did. As I opened the door, I saw a black finger run past the door, like in Paranormal 3. I ran down the stairs and out the door. This was the first time my demon had ever showed itself to me in any way. When I saw it, I felt a big, dark feeling that if I didn't get out of the house, I was going to be hurt. I messaged my mum to come and pick me up. She didn't ask any questions, she just came and took me home. When I went into bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I looked over at my door, and when I tell you I felt happy, I felt really happy. I saw my little brother. The past when I saw my pop, he had big beautiful white wings with a gorgeous white glaze around him. In that moment, I thought my pop is my guardian angel from heaven. I felt that my demon was also there, but he was standing guard so it couldn't get in. It felt like he had a protective shield just around my room. All of my stress and worries were gone for the night, and I got the best sleep I had gotten in so long. I woke up and I thought he had left completely. I got scared that my demon was coming to get me. But as soon as I felt scared and unsafe, he wrapped his rings around me and let me know he is here. This was in 2014 and now it's 2021 on the 12th of May at 1:12 a.m. And I sometimes still feel him when I've gotten myself into shit with a bad spirit or demon, which tends to happen a lot, not on my own accord. Let me know if you'd like to know more, because there is lots more where this came from. I hope everyone is having a good night, day, afternoon. Wishing all the love and respect you deserve. This story takes place in 2010. When I was in high school, I worked at the movie theatre in town. It was an awesome job. Free popcorn, soda, candy, and I got to watch movies whenever I wanted. The owners would even let me bring friends in after hours to watch movies or play games on the big screen. It was pretty normal for my friends to drive around town and randomly stop by the theatre when they knew I was working. Not much else to do in a small town. Two of my friends, Taylor, nicknamed Tej, and Justin, stopped by and hung out in the lobby with me while we waited for the movie to end. Tej told me he had heard a rumour of some weird lights out at an old cemetery just outside of town. He was a pathological liar, so I doubted almost everything that came out of his mouth. Justin started backing up what Tej was saying, so I told them that as soon as I finished cleaning up the theatre, I'd close up and drive out to this cemetery with them. The late show finished, I cleaned the theatre and locked up around 1 a.m. I honestly had no idea what to expect, so I told them I'd drive. At the time, I drove my dad's F-150 Ford pickup truck, so the three of us squeezed into the front seat and they directed me out to this cemetery. I thought for sure they were messing with me, but after about 20 minutes of driving on old country roads, we came up to a bridge which was at the bottom of a hill. The bridge was surrounded by woods, and the cemetery was at the top of the hill. The bridge looked super old, and I wasn't sure if it would hold the weight of the truck, so I parked the truck right in front of the bridge. Teach told me to turn the truck off and said he was getting out. At this point, I didn't really trust him, and I was also freaked out because we were at a cemetery around 2 a.m. So I told them I was staying in the truck. They caved and stayed in the truck with me. About 5 or so minutes passed, and we started to see fireflies. It was so dark and clear out that we could even see them in the woods around us. I asked Tej if those were the lights he saw, but before he could answer, he pointed up at the top of the hill, and I saw a giant blue light. Once I looked at this blue light at the top of the hill, several others popped up in the woods around us, and then more in the actual cemetery. The lights looked like they were blinking, but this could have also been from moving around in the woods where trees were blocking their light. I started freaking out and was screaming at both of them and told them that if they were playing a prank on me, it wasn't funny and that I was leaving. I tried starting the truck, but it turned once and then died. Tej had a shocked look on his face, which only made me more anxious. At this point, I was crying, borderline hysterical, and kept pumping the gas when turning the key. I didn't look up. I didn't want to. Finally, after what felt like forever, the truck started. I looked up and saw that the blue light at the top of the hill was now in the middle of the bridge and had taken the shape of a torso. At this point, I had no fucking clue what was happening, but I just had a really bad feeling and knew I needed to get out of there. Tej was yelling at me to stay there, that he wanted this thing to get closer, but I wasn't listening. I was shaking as I threw the truck into reverse and sped back the way we came. We were quiet the whole way back to the theatre. I dropped Tej and Justin off at their car and drove home. I sat up in bed on the computer, searching to see if I could find any explanation to what I saw. Angels? Demons? Spirit orbs? Aliens? I had no idea. It all seemed like bullshit to me, but I still couldn't logically explain what I had seen. The following morning, I went to Brittany's house. Brittany was my best friend at the time, and I knew she'd believe me. As soon as I told her about the story, she asked me to drive her to the cemetery, so I did. We parked in front of the bridge, walked up the hill, and then around the cemetery. We looked for LED lights on tombstones, flashlights, even footprints around in the muddy woods, but we didn't see anything that could explain what I'd seen the night before. The cemetery was also too far away from any major road for it to have been car headlights. I still don't know what we saw that night, and I get goosebumps every time I think about it. If anything, it's helped me keep an open mind about the weird stuff that happens. I live in a 3-story, 4-bedroom new build house. Prior to it being a house, this plot of land was a residential home. Before that, I've got no idea. Anyway, myself, my partner, and our young children have lived here since it was built. It was nearly 6 years. I've never felt anything bad or good in this house, except for the bedroom on the top floor. The bedroom was our youngest's bedroom. This was her bedroom from about 6 months old until 2 years. She never slept well, ever. She would always wake up during the night, sometimes crying uncontrollably. We just put her down to it being a crap sleeper. However, sometimes if we couldn't settle her back down, we'd bring her into our room, which was directly next to hers. She would just sit and stare into the hallway outside and would refuse to be put down near the doorway. And if we tried to carry her out into the hallway to show her nothing was there, she would freak out. She no longer has that room as her bedroom. She shares with her older sisters now. The middle child, boy, now has that bedroom. He claims to feel fine in there. However, when it was our youngest's bedroom, when she'd wake in the night, my partner would go downstairs to make her a bottle and I would go in to comfort her. While comforting her with my back to the door, I would always feel like there was something or someone watching me, so I would feel forced to glance back over my shoulder. That's the backstory. Anyway, during a conversation we were having as a family tonight, myself and my partner were talking to the eldest child, who's 15 years, and she just so happened to sleep in her brother's room last night. He was at a sleepover at a friend's house, and she wanted to escape the two younger ones. Anyway, we asked her how she slept. Totally normal question, and we certainly didn't lead her answer. She said, not so great. I felt on edge, like someone was watching me from the doorway. I wasn't scared, but I felt anxious. How she described her feelings was exactly how I felt in the past when I would often be in there comforting our youngest. Neither my partner nor myself have ever spoken to the children about this before, so there's no way she was just regurgitating what we've said. I felt a shiver go up my spine when my stepdaughter said this tonight, because it was so accurate. My partner immediately looked at me as if to say, wow, that's exactly what we've said. I just wanted to share my story and see if anybody can relate. A friend has just recommended we invest in some Celenti to place in around the room. Does anyone else have any other suggestions? When I say some experiences were crazy or scary, I actually mean absolutely horrifying. To the point I couldn't sleep for days after. Two incidences stick out in my head the most, and I'll never forget them. The first was 9 years ago, when I was a senior in high school. I lived with my sister, who was a corrections officer, and I would watch my nephew while she did her overnight shifts. One night, I decided to sleep in her room, since she had the comfier bed, and I wasn't really sleeping well in our guest room bed. I remember waking up in complete darkness, unable to move. It seemed like the usual, so I closed my eyes, thinking if I'd just fall back asleep. That's until I heard what sounded like heavy breathing coming from the direction of the bedroom door. I thought it could have been my sister getting off work early, so I tried to fake sleep, thinking maybe she'd just take the guest bed, seeing I was knocked out. But then the sound of the breathing started moving around the bed, like it was pacing. I could hear the floor creaking at certain points, as it was going back and forth from one side to the other. The breathing got heavier and deeper, like it was a large male that it was coming from. I became nervous since I was still unable to move and my nephew was in the room across the hall. I had no idea whether he was okay and genuinely felt like I was going to die right there. I could feel my body getting hotter and hotter as the breathing started moving quicker and quicker around the bed. Then I started to feel what felt like large hands wrapping around my neck. I wasn't being choked, but rather it was the feeling of somebody placing their hands around your neck, showing me that they could choke me out if they really wanted to. After what felt like forever, my body was jerked from one side of my bed to the other and I was able to sit up. I was covered with sweat and after realizing I could move, I immediately ran to my nephew's room to check on him. He was sound asleep. I couldn't sleep after that though, and actually refused to sleep there at night. I would force myself to stay up for the rest of my time there until I moved 5 months later for college. I'd sleep in the nurse's office at school or go to a friend's house during the day and take a nap, so staying up wouldn't be so hard at night. I just felt unsafe. The next incident happened quite recently, about 3 weeks ago. I woke up into sleep paralysis while napping for work. It was completely normal for the most part. I was laying on my side, facing outwards on the bed, and I could feel my girlfriend was laying next to me. She knows how much I experience sleep paralysis, so she knows that if I start shaking or trying to yell, to just shake me awake. So naturally, I started to try calling for her so she could wake up, and then wake me up completely. I felt her shake me, but I wasn't snapping out of it. I kept calling for her while trying to say, "Turn me over." I felt her reach her hand underneath my side, laying on the bed, and grab the area under my armpit, wiggle her fingers into place, and then squeezed me with a bunch of force to the point it actually hurt, and I snapped out of it. I rolled over to her to ask why she squeezed me so hard, only to see that nobody was there. I was confused and honestly shook. To make things worse, my girlfriend opened the bedroom door asking if I'm okay because she heard me calling for her, but she was washing the dishes. She said she heard me call for her and begun to walk toward the room, but when she heard me walking around the room, she figured I was okay. I never got out of bed though. I have no idea who or what threatened my life, or shook and grabbed me on my side, and there were no markings on my body after the events, but I promise that the feeling of dread and the feeling of being grabbed were definitely real. Some backstory first. Strange things are happening from like 2 months ago. I don't remember the day, but it was in May. I was walking to my work. I always pass through an underpass, really small, but with no secondary exits, just an entrance and the main exit. I heard behind me a bicycle, so I got near the wall to let the cyclist pass. I saw her, a woman on a bicycle. I turned my head looking at other cars passing, and then the bicycle noise disappeared. The woman didn't pass, and as I said, there's no other exit. A woman just disappeared in a few seconds, with her bicycle too. From that day, I had the sensation of being followed everywhere, which I've never had before. Especially when I take a shower and when I go to sleep. Basically, when I'm alone or in the dark. From that day, I've had weird dreams. Some people said it was sleep paralysis, but I don't really think that. It was a weird experience where I just felt a female voice speaking to my right ear, and I couldn't open my right eye. I even felt something on my chest, like if she was on me. Then, some nights ago, I think it's been 4 or 5 days, I was watching videos on my bed. It was 1 PM and I was about to go to sleep. When I got up to get some water, I saw it. I saw a shadow figure in the dark. It was for some seconds, but I saw something. I really got scared and got out on my bed a bit again. I turned on my left side and I was thinking about what the fuck I just saw. Then behind, some weird light started flashing on the wall. It was pure darkness and everything was closed. And exactly after I saw the shadow figure, these weird lights just started appearing out of nowhere. Doesn't seem a normal thing to me. Also, from that day, I hear people talking or just calling me, with some familiar voices, family or friends. But then when I ask them about it, they say they didn't say anything. This happens to everyone. But after that disappearing woman, it started to get more and more frequent. Now I hear that nearly every day, someone just calling me. But no one actually does it. Last thing, yesterday night, I was just playing Minecraft on my PC. It was 3 or 4 PM I think, I don't really remember the hour. I had my lights off because of course it's in the middle of the night, and my family was sleeping. Then something started touching me. Not in that sense, geez, just touching my shirt and my pants. To just move the parts that aren't touching my body. I don't really know how to explain this, I hope you got it, lol. I immediately turned my phone's flashlight on, turned off my PC, and went to bed scared as fuck again. I don't know if this thing just wants to communicate with me, or if I'm just going crazy. So it was a really hot summer day, and me and my buddy just finished with our school exams, and we're heading home. Right after passing through a building that people believed was haunted, we decided to enter and explore it. After entering inside, we didn't notice anything out of the ordinary besides old furniture that had been brought by people that used to hang out there and have sex, I guess. But after stepping on many blankets and bottles, we saw that the house had stairs that lead to the basement and stairs that lead to the upper floor. We decided to go for the basement, and while the basement was not like a typical horror movie basement with no light and only one staircase, it was still creepy. Down there were windows that dimmed light inside, but there were some corners in that basement that were pretty dark because of the wall angles that didn't let the light go through the whole basement. There also were exits that we could get inside, The basements again. So again, this wasn't the cliche horror movie basement. After going down the stairs, we explored the whole thing and we found nothing out of the ordinary, so we decided to head back. And this is where things got weird. Right as we're about to start going up the stairs, I noticed a big object right next to the staircase that started there and finished under the stairs. I told my buddy that I'm about to check it out to see if it's another mattress like the countless mattresses that were there at the time. When I came closer though, I saw something that as a teenage boy, it shook me to my core. It was a dog, and it was dead. Not just dead, but it looked like it was strangled. His head was looking behind his body. I don't know how to explain this in order for you guys to picture it, but imagine the dog's scalp touching his back. Its neck was broken and his eyes were wide open. After seeing this, we wanted to run, but my curiosity got the better of me. For some reason, I was expecting some kind of interaction from it, and I found a stick just so I could poke it. After finding the stick, I poked it a number of times, and it felt like I was poking a statue, but clearly this wasn't one, as the decomposition of the body was already visible. The weird thing is that there was no smell. No rotting smell or anything, to be honest. It was just a common abandoned place smell, like old mattresses, alcohol and piss. At this point, we decided to start going upstairs and we talked about why someone would do this, while also questioning whether or not it was an intentional strangling or just a car accident that the driver thought it would be a good idea to pick the dog up and throw it in some abandoned place that no one could possibly discover. Anyway, after heading up the stairs, we saw another weird thing, and this I can't till this day explain. In one of the stairs that were leading to the upper floor, I saw ice. But no ordinary ice, the kind of ice that forms after an outside tap is open, and after being exposed to cold temperatures, the water drops form a kind of reverse stalagmite. Keep in mind that there was no water in the ceiling, and it's like 40 degrees Celsius or 102 degrees Fahrenheit. So then, me and my buddy tried to touch to see if it was actual ice or just a glassy object that really resembled real ice, and if it was real. The ice was real. The feeling was so surreal, and I couldn't think of anything that could possibly link these two unexplained things together. Later on, I found out that this wasn't a house, but rather an abandoned project for a daycare building, because for some unknown reason, the funding was suddenly cut. What's odd is that I still can't link those two together. Maybe it was just a coincidence that those two strange things happened at the same time, although to be fair, the dog seemed like it was there quite some time. And I can't say the same for the ice though. While I don't know the exact time that the ice was there, but I highly doubt that it was around for too long. Also, in the dog's case, even if it was an accident, it would mean that the driver had to carry the dog on foot because there's no road access to that building. And any reasonable person would first at least put the dog in a bag or something. In this case, the dog wasn't covered at all, so that would mean that the driver could be seen carrying with bare hands a dog with a broken neck. That would be disgusting to watch, let alone do. So to start with a bit of context, I'm going to be an English teacher in middle school and high school next year for the first time ever. This has always been something I wanted to do, and I'm so excited about it. But, because there is a but, I am very bittersweet that my uncle and my granddad, who both passed away, won't be there to see me achieve my lifelong dream. Around a week ago, I called my boyfriend as I was going to work. I work at a small supermarket, trying to hold back my tears as I was thinking about my late uncle and granddad. I told him I was sad they weren't there, and he said that he was sure they were still around and they were proud of me. I then just went to work and forgot about this conversation, until 2 days later. I was working an early shift and was at the till cashing up people. Suddenly, a fairly big man came. My uncle was waiting for his stomach reduction when he died. At the till and acted exactly the way my uncle would have, as he asked a lady to stop yelling at her in the shop as she was on the phone. She was so rude and she didn't even acknowledge me. What is funny is that a few years back, he died of COVID about a year ago. He told us the same story with the exact same words while he was in the doctor's waiting room. I didn't really think much of it and kept on working. But what is even more crazy is that around 10ish, I thought I saw my granddad's ghost in the shop. And I was so shocked and literally couldn't focus on clients as I was trying to figure out whether I was daydreaming or not. There was an old, thin, ill-looking guy. My granddad passed of cancer in 2015, who looked just like him. The same haircuts, the same colours and type of clothing, the same body shape. Everything he was made me think of my granddad. What was amazing is that although both men came at very different times and are definitely not regulars, they were kind-hearted and told me to take care of myself. In a way, I believe it was them telling me they are still around, looking after us, and making sure we are sound and happy. This happened around the last week of July, and I've been working early shifts again since then, and haven't seen them since. Have you lived anything similar? When I was a young teenager, I was playing tag with my little cousin at my grandparents' house. We were running throughout the house, having fun. At one point, I ended up running towards the end of the hallway, where my grandparents' room is. But as I ran down, time slowed down, and everything almost seemed to freeze for a split second. While time was slowed down, I looked to my right into the guest bedroom and saw a small, really old lady with salt and pepper hair, pasty skin, and a long white sleeping gown. I immediately felt freezing cold, uneasy, and scared. I had no idea who this lady was, and I didn't know what to do. Then, just as fast as time slowed, it went back to normal, and I collapsed into my grandparents' room. I got up, creeped out and confused, but went to check the room to see if someone was actually in there. But there was no one there. Cut to a few months in the future. It's summer break, and my family and I decided to go visit our relatives in Mexico. We went to a fancy big flea market about an hour from our little town to check everything out. Everything was going great until I felt that same freezing cold feeling as I did in my grandparents' house. I turned to my right and see the same old lady walking beside me. I froze in fear because it legit was the same old lady. Salt and pepper hair, pasty skin, long white sleeping gown. She kept walking until she was out of sight and I just stood there watching. Am I going crazy? Or was that like some glitch in the Matrix? Paranormal? I appreciate any help.